Hello.
We are talking about something unusual today.
Yes, and as you can see, we have a new title card to celebrate.
And we have a new character to speak about changing the dreaming with.
Oh yeah?
If you can't tell the title card, my character in question would be a Sluagh. So I am speaking very softly for this introduction. I don't know how much of this is being picked up by the microphone or how loud this is going to be in the playback.
I turned up your levels. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I'm about to get very, very loud. You might want to turn this back down.
All right. I was about to say, fuck off, you fucking Marilyn Manson looking motherfucker. Get out of here with your fucking pale skin and your snake eyes. Fuck off.
And the reason why Tyler is so outrageously red and orange in that picture is because of Changeling nonsense.
Yeah, I seem to have a lazy eye as well.
Yeah.
AI just did not do Tyler very well this time around, did they?
I need to start shilling a ton of money if I want this stuff done now.
Yep. Thank you, Digital Eye. Very cool.
And also, they completely fucked up Meitu too, the Chinese version that I was using to get AI images with.
Oh yeah.
Because now you can't do anything with that app unless you pay money.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends. Well, they're moving in that direction. It's like they found this revolutionary new technology. Of course, they want to monetize it. That's just how it goes.
It's called the new technology in question is called exploitation.
Yep, basically. It's very profitable.
We have been thinking about this episode for a month. We have had this in our minds for a month, and we set a schedule every month when we do these podcast episodes.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to happen in August, but now it's in September.
Yeah, because the Octana decided to send a lightning bolt to strike my house, so...
And part of me is thinking that maybe we should have saved this for Halloween, because it's Changeling.
Yeah, potentially, but we're doing it now, so here it is.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. It's the 4th of September.
Halloween comes early this year.
Yes, it does. So, welcome.
And this is going to be a brief introduction to Changeling from the perspective of Werewolf the Apocalypse. Because, believe it or not, you're fighting for the same thing, you just have different words for it.
Basically, yes. Which is why Go ahead.
I really like about Changing the Dreaming. I feel like you're about to go on some other route with this, so you finish your thought first.
Not really. I was just going to say that's why in the start of our werewolf game, Tyler's friend is indeed a changeling, a redcap.
And thanks to the 1970s, the events that happened in the meta plot, changelings and werewolves are talking again. Well, they were for a while, but the Shee, in particular, I'm thinking of the Shee, because now the Sealy Court and the Geru Nation have a small partnership.
And a partnership.
What I really like about Changeling is how incredibly easy it is to get to grips with what Changeling is supposed to be. We need to do our episodes on werewolves because there is a very distinct, correct way to play every single werewolf. If you're not doing it, then you're not that tribe. That's not the case with vampire, even though that comes with personality tics. And once again, you need to know what philosophy you're talking about when it comes to mage. But Changeling, besides a character requirement, you really can just go in any direction with the Changelings. And the different kits, your races, quote-unquote, that you play as, are extremely easy to get to grips with. For example, if I were to say you can play as a troll in this game, what would you think that is?
Big, mean, scary break things?
That is the martial class of this game. Technically, they kind of combine races and classes in the same thing. So you automatically know what kind of character you're playing as when you pick your Kith.
Yep. I think it's pretty neat that you can do that, and it really sort of simplifies how you play a World of Darkness game. It's like usually I think that vampires.
Really
Go ahead.
You think the vampires what?
I was thinking vampire is a good introduction to the World of Darkness, but honestly, if you want something a little more lighthearted, Changeling the Dreaming might be a good first try.
It's also a little bit baffling to me that changing to dreaming isn't more popular and more talked about, because this game is very easy to play. It's very easy to pick up and figure out what you're doing.
Yes.
And we are going to discuss why werewolves and changelings should talk a little bit more often. Because you're fighting the same fight, you just don't know it.
Yes, we are. And we're going to get into that.
We know that the villains of Werewolf the Apocalypse are the Weaver and the Worm.
Yes.
Would you believe me if I told you that the Weaver is also the villain of Changing to Dreaming?
Well, yeah, probably.
There is a poison in this game. While you get corruption in Werewolf, while you get paradoxes in Mage, while you get your Beast and Vampire, in this game it's Banality, where you know what that word means. It's being an NPC, like the NPC meme, but you're real, where you just go about your entire life with your brain turned off. You watch Jimmy Kimmel, you put ice cubes in your milk, and then you just do all this stuff without thinking. You say all this virtue signaling stuff without actually thinking about what you're saying. You drive the same route to work every day, you work the same job, you talk to the exact same people, you live in an echo chamber, and your life is just ultimately boring and meaningless, and you might as well just be a sack of meat, because with how extremely boring you've become, and the philosophical zombie you've become, you might not even be a person anymore, you're just a robot with a heartbeat.
You become a person registered trademark of the Weaver Company.
You become pretty much a basic Reddit user.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that is functionally what the Weaver will do to people. Because a lot of ways you become banal is also how you get Weaver corruption in Werewolf. Such as, I remember a good example was, I believe it was Possessed that talked about it in Werewolf, where there was an example of a boarding school where parents would send their kids there, and of course the kids get a fantastic education. It's a charter school. You get very good, very smart teachers, and your kid leaves that school a genius, but your kid comes out very boring. They become this know-it-all that only ever talks about information, without really understanding what they're saying. And sure, your kid's now an encyclopedia who can immediately tell you what, say, 9 times 13 is, off the top of their head. But do they think of anything else? Do they enjoy sports? Do they like anything? And the answer is no. Because you've been droned. And that kid, sure, you're intelligent, but his brain is gone. And that's exactly what banality is in Changing to Dreaming.
Yeah, I met a dude like that when I was going to college. Now, this kid that I was going to class with, this was a 300 level comp sci course. And the dude was 17, dual majoring in math and computer science. Dude was absolutely nuts. But he didn't seem like he did much outside of school. And I kind of felt bad for him.
And friend of the show, Fox, told me a good litmus test as to how to immediately identify an NPC when somebody talks to you on the internet.
How
The
is
good
that?
way, typically you do this in a Discord call, where the person will immediately start the conversation about politics, and typically it's going to be left-leaning. There's also right-leaning NPCs, but typically it's the left. And the minute you ask them, what kind of games do you like? They start stuttering. They start trying to struggle for answers. You ask them about sports. You ask them about television. And if they only ever start mentioning the current show instead of any show that came out, say, 2 years ago at the very least, then that person might be an NPC.
They just take whatever is given to them, and that's it. Because that's all they've ever known.
You've become so fried because you're constantly reading current politics every day.
Yeah, it's why I don't deal much with politics all that. Well, at least current politics all that much. Because honestly, it's like arguing about them to me is a waste of time.
Ultimately, it's Caesar Circus.
Yeah, it's people in suits playing a giant TV show, And the only thing that's going to
Now,
change about politics is when it starts to piss us off to the point which you don't want to hear it anymore, which we're rapidly getting there, but not yet.
now compare this to the opposite of banality. If you go too deep into your fairy heritage and changeling, you get something called bedlam, where you become such a space case that it's now impossible to carry a conversation with you. You will change topics in the middle of a conversation. You'll start speaking in different voices. You won't be able to maintain eye contact with somebody. You're not just stimming. It looks like you're having a seizure while you're talking to somebody. And by that point, you're seeing creatures that aren't there. You're hearing voices that aren't there. It's not mental illness. It's just your brain is so obsessed that you're in psychic communication with something that you just start seeing it. And eventually you end up locking yourself into an even worse echo chamber where you become so delusional that you can't function in the real world anymore. And ultimately, if you go into Bedlam, really the best thing another changeling can do for you is kill you, if that happens to you.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that would be wild corruption in Werewolf the Apocalypse. But wild corruption is more like your body is turning into a horrible mutation where you've now got 5 right arms, 2 left legs coming out of your left arm, and 3 mouths, and you don't even look like a creature that you used to be anymore, and you can't even communicate. But Bedlam, it's just the organization of the mind, so to speak.
Basically
Like,
devolves you, and it basically devolves you mentally. It's like you can't focus on anything.
I'm thinking like videos of people who have like early onset dementia, that kind of stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
where it's suffering if you have that.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two conditions you have in Changeling. That's how similar they are to Werewolf. But besides that, there's one more power system that's a little bit similar. Your glamour. What I really love about the World of Darkness games is how different the power systems are between each game. You look at the sheets, and the top half of the sheet is identical with every game, but the bottom half is completely different. And in this game, you have cantrips. These aren't your D&D cantrips, get that out of your mind. This is a very interesting system. Would you believe me if I told you there were 2 parts to every spell you had to cast in Changeling?
Given how crazy the world is, then yes, I would. But this is me you're talking to.
So you have your arts and your realms. The art is what the spell looks like. The realm is how much the spell affects. So you can have an art that is pyromancy, for example. But your realm, it decides how long the fire lasts, how long you can shoot the flame out from. If the flame is able to hurt you, who's able to perceive the flame, that kind of stuff. That's the power system in Changing to Dreaming.
That actually sounds pretty fucking neat.
And you have 2 systems to worry about. In Dark Ages Changeling, it's different because now they're combined to the same thing, where every cantrip has a very set thing it does. But that's Dark Ages Fae, not Changing to Dreaming, which is what we're talking about now. And speaking of the Dark Ages, we can go into history now.
Yes. So, the Dark Ages.
You will be using this as a preface. You will be a framing device for this, where you are talking about a Kith in particular who is witnessing all of this, while I am the neutral narrator for the story.
Yes.
Way back when times began, you had the beginning. There were people had ideas. Those ideas created a realm called the Dreaming. If you're familiar with D&D, this is the Feywild. Where, is it a place that you can go to? Yes. It's in a weird kind of middle section between the material plane and the Umbra, where it is the Umbra, but it's not the Umbra at the same time. But it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. But the difference between this is that you can visit this place in your dreams, which is why it's called the Dreaming, but you only stay there for a little bit amount of time. This is why you have such fantastical visions when you sleep, lifestyle, because your mind is temporarily going into the dreaming whenever you have dreams.
Yes.
Because I was thinking about doing a career change, but the day I sent in applications, I had a dream where I was having a sword fight with two different people, and I was getting ganged up on, and I could feel like the pain in my arms, like every time metal met metal when I swung the swords. And then I ended up waking up from that one, and I thought to myself, maybe this is trying to tell me something. Maybe I should stick with the job I have now, and that was the interpretation I got from the dream.
Yeah.
Where typically when you have dreams in the dreaming, the people in the dreaming are trying to tell you something. They know your mind when you go into the dreaming, and they try making like a show for you to give you some sort of message. Where fairies kind of sort of want to help you, but it's in a way that also helps them. It's a help me, help you, help me, where they need humans to think and imagine and dream in order to exist. If humans stop dreaming, they stop existing. Now, I know what you might be asking. Does that include vampires and werewolves?
Well, does it?
And the answer to that, vampires can dream. They are capable of that. But given that they don't have a soul, and I don't believe there is a straight answer as to whether or not it's a yes or no, do correct me in the comments if I am wrong about that, and do cite the source because I want to read it. And Geru do affect the dreaming. As long as a Geru or another changing breed dreams and thinks, the changelings and the dreamings also exist. And back then they formed so many different myths and legends, like dragons and goblins and ogres, and so many of them became the first gods, such as, I don't know, Pan. You remember the satyr god from Greek mythology, the guy with the pan flute who walks around with goat hooves, that's also him. You also had Fafnir in Norse mythology, the dwarf who became a dragon, defending his gold for all eternity. And you had other ones like, for example, let's say, let me think of something Japanese. I'm going to say Susanoo, who was the swordsman who was able to create tornadoes and twisters with the swing of a sword. That kind of stuff, where you had absolutely crazy, impossible feats being created by the changelings. Some of them became uh, figures of worship, while others became, well, just people trying to live their lives in nature. And as we discussed with the Fianna, you had the Tuatha De Danann, and the werewolves who would eventually become the Fianna who followed Danu. You remember who she is, right?
It's been a minute since the Fianna episode.
She was the kind of sort of original totem for the Fianna before Stag took control.
Right.
Where Danu in Celtic mythology is the original mother of the fairies. She's very much like Lilith is when it comes to demons. Because Lilith, well, I'm not so much World of Darkness, I'm talking more like Jewish mythology Lilith. Where Lilith made all the demons after her union with Adam. But then Danu made all the fairies in Celtic mythology. So, very similar characters. I do like that when we're reading mythology, just how some of these myths sound similar.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of people probably arrived at similar conclusions for certain things that happen in the natural world, which is why they sound similar. Or somebody from a far away land decided, hey, I'm gonna build a piece of wood that can float on the water and go over there and talk to those people and see what they have to trade with me. And then they started talking, and they exchanged cultural ideas and thought, they have a god that does that. Maybe we should try and find a god that does that.
Because you know the whole story behind Aphrodite, right?
Uh, Aphrodite
That
was blood from the tip of Zeus's penis?
Cronus' penis, but the way she came into existence in terms of like the meta of mythology. Because originally she was based off of Isis, who is the mother goddess of, well, not really the mother goddess, the wife goddess of Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
but she was inspired by Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess, who was simultaneously the goddess of love and war at the same time. And that got passed along through so many different cultures talking to each other, where they started copying each other's gods. So, in a way, Aphrodite is also a war god.
I actually didn't know that.
In a very strange sense. It's because you know the planet Venus, right?
Yeah.
And Venus is weird for a planet because not only is it very, very similar to Earth, it's what Earth would look like if it didn't have a molten nickel core, but it moves in a circle instead of an ellipse, which is which makes it the only planet in our solar system that does that. And nobody has an explanation as to why that happens.
It's just where gravity said it should go.
Mm-hmm. So it's technically one season all year, every year in Venus. And with this talk of mythology aside, now we begin the history. This is when they start keeping dates because this was a pretty important time. The Sundering. As we talked about in the Red Talons episode, humans eventually learned how to make iron. And with the iron that they were creating, they were using it to make tools, but more specifically, weapons. In the eyes of the changelings, iron is the most banal out of all materials. While the Giru are afraid of silver, the changelings are deathly afraid of iron, because iron is the most permanent of all the metals. Granted, it'll rust, it can oxide, but if you forge it into steel, that structure is going to last forever. Well, at least until, other natural circumstances batter it down, but you can't just expect steel to self-destruct. You try grabbing a steel sword, you try bending it in two, it's not going to happen. So, the most permanent structural metal on Earth is the weakness of the changelings. Which, from kind of like a symbolic standpoint, that's kind of cool to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, while I was doing my research for this video for the Puka, the whole advent of the Iron Age started to help cement more static places of dwelling, places that wouldn't move, places of unchangingness. And that sort of led to the start of banality within humans that would make the mortal realm and the dreaming start to drift apart.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the Puka, around this time they were just enjoying themselves around the world, really.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys were everywhere.
So going back a little bit to Egyptian mythology, the Puka believed that Anubis was one of the original Puka guided to help
Not
found
true.
what? No, it isn't. But they
not,
believe
not
it is.
True.
That's what they say. Bear in mind, the Puka are habitual liars, so a lot of my information is incorrect.
Yeah, this is you. This is the Manzai. I'm the straight man. You're the goofball.
Yes. So basically, during the Sundering, they would travel. They would basically left Egypt and decided, here, let's try and make more animal-based religions all across the world. They moved to India, China, Africa, and North America, and they were always at odds with the advance of human civilization. And they tried their best to found a number of animal-based pagan religions across the world. That is until Christianity and monotheistic religion in general, as well as the rationalist movement, began to supersede their influence.
It's funny that a lot of Egyptian gods are Puka in the World of Darkness, because I remember the Egyptian hippo goddess Tariret was a Puka.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the closest we will get to having the were hippos be playable.
Yeah, close enough, but kind of hard to play the one guy,
Yeah. Well, I'm also thinking that the whole story with the kitsune is that was Gaia's last made changing breed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, wow, Gaia, you really blew the changing seed on foxes when you could have had the were hippo fight for you against the worm.
Oh, I feel like Gaia said, I need another trickster. Remember we said that, Mother Gaia is a little...
Stupid.
Well, not just that. They're like
Yes.
all the forces involved in the world of darkness are kind of freaking stupid in their own way, but that's part of what makes it a world of darkness.
There's only one genius, and that's the Weaver.
Yeah, but then again, the Weaver kind of sucks.
Yeah. Well, the Weaver sucks, but she loves herself, so that's okay.
It's okay if you want to enslave humanity and make us all drones, as long as you love yourself, Queen. God damn it.
And then come to Sundering, what happens to the Puka?
So when they when they learn to dream, when they learn to start building things more permanent, as well as the march of monotheism and rationalism, they also begin to learn to disbelieve things as just dreams. And so with human disbelief and rationalism beginning to protect people from the creatures of their imagination, the realm of the mortals and the dreaming started to drift apart. And things came to a head during the Inquisition in 1233 with the church trying to eliminate any supernatural elements that they found on Earth, including the Fae. And this sort of led to a scattering, so to speak. Some Fae retreated deeper into the dreaming, sealing themselves away entirely, some only coming out on solstices, Samhain, Beltane, Midsummer Night. Some traveled to find the Tirnanog, otherwise known as America. So they fled the banality of Europe to America, came into contact with the native people there. It's even rumored that, I'm gonna fucking butcher this name, how the fuck do you pronounce that name? Quetzalcoatl?
Are you looking at? You're looking at Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl. It was rumored that he was a puka.
Would you prefer his Mayan name?
What was that?
Kukulkan.
No, I'm gonna stick with Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was rumored that he himself was a puka, and he was rather aloof of his subjects in the Aztec Empire and strongly disliked human sacrifice. And to that end, he would eventually leave for the seas and promised he would return, which birthed the Aztec myth of a tall, pale god from the east.
Rich. That snake they're talking about may or may not have been Great Uktena, as in the Uktena totem.
Yeah, maybe.
So, just might have been. And we don't talk about them. We're probably not going to talk about them much in this episode, but there is a already existing group of changelings in North America called the Ninunhi, who are pretty much fairies the way that the Native Americans saw them. And we're not going to get too into detail about them today. You're going to have to wait until we talk about the Uktena before we talk about them.
Yep.
But it's a fun story, but we'll get there when we get there eventually. And you can imagine how difficult it was for changelings to exist around this time, because not only were humans beginning to believe in themselves more than they believed in changelings, but you started having the Church of St. Leopold, as we said with the Inquisition, going around, and the Church of St. Leopold are human supremacists in the name of God, where anything that's not human needs to die. And if you're hoping you can reason with the Order of St. Leopold, you can't. These La Sombra and Zimichi already burned that bridge.
Yeah, very much so.
They're the two best vampire clans. They've done nothing wrong in their entire history.
They just were winning. They were winning at the game.
Yeah, one was talking to a devil, and the other one was talking with the force of death itself that goes beyond the worm. So, great times, great allies.
Yeah, how can you lose with them in your corner, you know?
Yes. And you wonder why the Sabbat isn't winning in the story of Werewolf, the story of Vampire the
Yeah,
in the story of Vampire the Masquerade, why the Sabbat have always been the bottom bitches in the games against the Camarilla and the Anarchs.
I mean, the Anarchs don't do all that much aside from the occasional political terrorism.
Yeah, aside from the terror. But that still does tickle my pickle, where you have guys who can manipulate shadows and freely shape their bodies, and if these guys were as big and bad as they said they were, wouldn't the world already be destroyed?
Yeah, so something tells me that they over exaggerate a little bit.
It's because they're a little too busy killing each other than their enemies.
Yeah,
A
so
lot of
anyway.
infighting happens in the bot.
Anyway, so Church
But
of St. Leopold, Imperium of Man, where are we at?
the Imperium of Man, and around this time, the changelings that flee into the dreaming stay there forever and become the Lost Ones. God help you if you talk to any of them, because if you think Luna is capricious, you haven't met a Lost One yet. That is a changeling who is not, no, it's not a changeling. It's a fairy who has gone full bedlam and is almost impossible to reason with. You're not much of an Elder Scrolls fan, but if I were to mention the Daedric princes around you, would you know who I'm talking about?
Honestly, no. I
There,
I didn't
there
play much
is
Skyrim.
there is one called Sheogorath, where you talk to this guy and he's the he's listed as the god of madness and escapism. For every conversation you have with him, even though the dialogue he says is funny, you are constantly worried that this guy is going to spring out of his chair in the middle of a conversation and strangle you.
Yeah, it sounds
Because
like a blood pressure is what he is.
because in the middle of a conversation he'll say, "I'm so happy I could rip out your intestines and strangle you with them," and then he just immediately goes off to the next point.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that's what it's like talking with the fairies who are living in the Dreamling for this long. Uh,
Yeah, they basically just go insane from loneliness, it sounds like.
yeah, yeah. If you think about caving is dangerous, I
Yeah,
think
fucking introduce Malkav to a lost one. Jesus, they'd have a
yeah,
time.
y- you'll survive your encounter with a Malkavian. You won't survive talking to a lost one. And time goes on, we move on to our next historical event. So the Sundering. Humans are starting to believe that fairies aren't real anymore. They're beginning to become self-sustainable. The Order of Hermes is back in full swing, and of course we know about Gnosticism and how much we hate Gnosticism, early Christian beliefs in the first century. And what we get from that is you are your own god, and we all have the same abilities as God. And if you draw these symbols and say these words and burn these things, you will eventually rise to the power of the demiurge and take back reality for yourself. And of course, we know this is just a bunch of insanity. That shit isn't real.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Royal Darkness, it is real. And the Order of Hermes are probably the most evil of the nine traditions. But we'll talk about the Order of Hermes when we talk about the Order of Hermes.
Another episode
And
for another day.
and to try to solve the loss of power, the loss of belief, the Unseelie Fae, if you're familiar with D&D, you see where we're going with this. The Unseelie Fae decided that the best way to get humans to believe in fairies again is to kill all of the humans. Essentially the Purgium.
Yeah.
Purgium Part 2, but by fairies.
How do
I'm
they
sure
go
the Red
about
Talons were
this?
very happy about that. I'm sure the Red Talons were very happy.
Yes, no doubt. Especially after we just talked about the Red Talon. So how did they go about this?
Well, what happens is that the Unseelie Court is based around fear, manipulation, and destruction. But in the name of spreading fear instead of spreading death, you want to keep these people alive. But at the time, the Unseelie Court didn't split. So you had Unseelie who were going around killing people. And around this time, we know them as the Technocracy today. But the Order of Reason saw the destruction that the Unseelie Fae were causing after they did a massive masquerade breach. This is why the veil is so important with werewolves, dude. That the Order of Reason rewrote consensus to say that fairies no longer exist. And as simple as that, fairies around the world began to drop dead in a wave that began to spread across the entire planet. And if you are one of the few fairies who learned about this, you very quickly ran into the dreaming and stayed there forever. But if you were unlucky, there was only one solution to this. Remove yourself from your body and bond your soul to a human child, preferably an infant. It could work with an adult, but you're going to struggle with it. And by doing that, it will make your Fey nature dormant. But eventually, thanks to the power of reincarnation, same way the ancestors' background works with werewolves, you will eventually reawaken your Fey nature and become a new type of fairy, the Changeling. Granted, those were already a thing, but now changelings are widespread. As it's stated in Dark Ages Changeling, the most common fairy around that time was a true fairy that could just disguise itself as a person. So when you look at ancient history with these guys, when they're talking about ancient history in their kits, typically it's a true fae who's accomplishing that. There were changelings who could bond to human spirits, namely because they wanted to know what it was like to be human a little bit more, so to avoid the effects of Bedlam. But most of the time it was true fae. You also had they're still around, but in very, very sparse numbers, the inanimate, who are golems and spriggans, people who are made out of stuff that isn't flesh. So you'll have a tree man, or a stone man, or a mud man walking around. That's what an anime is. And those were able to survive, but because of consensus and nobody really believing in you anymore, and now the Order of Reason is looking to kill you, most of them had to go into hiding. So very rarely will you meet an anime anymore. On the plus side, these guys live forever. They're ageless. They can be killed, but they're ageless. So if you meet one, more than likely that is an old being that you are talking to.
It probably knows a lot. Keep that in mind.
No, let's hope that it's not an earthbound demon instead, and your GM isn't using Demon the Fallen, because the two are very easy to mistake.
Yeah, that would be a pretty lethal mix-up, in all honesty.
You think it's going to be a nice little changeling Fred? No, it's a 10 torment demon who's killing you.
Oh yeah. Now that's like an endgame fight, isn't it?
It is. Oh, especially in vampire, absolutely. And werewolf, that's going to be a hell of a ride. And in mage, it depends on what level of play you're at in mage.
Mage seems like easy mode. Like we were saying, Changeling and Dreaming is well, I imagine Changeling is an easy game to pick up and play. Mage seems like a game where it's hard to die.
Yeah. Oh, it's very easy to die in mage because if you make a paradox, that's it. Your character's gone.
Oh, yeah, that sounds rough.
Yeah, you are incredibly powerful in mage, but you make one mistake, that's it. You don't get to try again.
So make sure you check your calculations.
The risk and reward of being a wizard.
Yeah.
And around this time, what's going on with the changelings now that all the trods and entrances to the dreaming are disappearing?
The Shattering.
That's what the event is formally called.
Yes. So the pressure built by the Sundering had eventually broke with a combination of the Church of St. Leopold, the Order of Reason, and eventually in 1347, the Black Plague, which killed, 75 million people in Europe. So a lot of
1/4 of the continent's population.
Yes.
That's what that number was.
25% of the population of Europe fucking died. So during this time, because there was less dreaming going about and everyone in Europe wanting to kill the Fae, they fled to their places of power, sealed themselves off, and those would eventually become the lost ones, according to the Puka book. Some fled.
Oh wait, I gave you the wrong number.
Oh, did you?
It wasn't 25%. It was 40% of Europeans.
That's still fucking a lot.
Yeah, somewhere between 40 and 60.
Yep. And some fled to Arcadia, where some of the nobles of the Fae would battle across the Trods they attempt to get through before the pathways into Arcadia were destroyed. Those that were abandoned had to... What's up?
You remember how I said there was a distinction between Stygia and Da'at when it came to Wraith?
A while ago,
Remember
yes.
that?
During the Silent Striders
Yeah.
episode?
Arcadia is the Western world version of the Dreaming.
Right, right.
Yeah, you have a completely different one on the Eastern Hemisphere.
It makes sense. So
Mhm.
anyway, those that were abandoned that couldn't get past the path to Arcadia had to find a way to adapt the world to the banality of the regular world with the changeling way. And we discussed this a little bit. It's a means for true Fae of commoner Kiths to deal with the banality of the modern world. And
Mhm.
as we said, transferring souls into young humans, leading to the myth of fairies stealing away children to replace it with their own. Kind of like a kookaburra. And so
Mhm.
the puka attempted to flee the banality as it reached America and attempted to flee to Arcadia until the Silver Gates closed, at which point they were forced to adopt said changeling way. And as
Mhm.
this happened, the puka would try to offer sanctuary to those that remained, even as they began to disappear. The Shattering
Mhm.
fucking sucked.
If you want to talk about the apocalypse and Werewolf the Apocalypse, well, technically we're living in a post-apocalypse already, but it wasn't the Guru who died; it was the changelings.
Yeah, that's
And
sort of what it feels like. We're inching
well,
closer to playing a cyberpunk game.
well, there was already an apocalypse before that too, the Great Deluge. You know,
Oh yeah,
the
the
word
Noah's Ark story.
the word antediluvian exists for a reason in this world. You
Those
what? You find Malkav in our game and you ask him what the flood was like.
That's gonna be a fucked conversation.
Oh, he would love to tell you about it.
I know he would, but that's why I'm scared to ask. Jesus.
I'm having such a great time playing that villain.
I know you are, and honestly, it helps sell the story more.
Yep. If if you manage to kill him, I'm gonna have to find a new guy to play with.
That's gonna be fucking hard, my guy.
Yeah, I have one in mind, but I don't know if he's gonna be as fun.
I just gotta pass some fucking busted speech checks to talk him down, but I don't think I can do that.
No, no, you can't find with checks, dude. You gotta form an actual argument with him.
Yep.
And there is one more event we're going to talk about. Well, technically, it's two. You hang on to your Puka notes because I see those.
Yes.
Um, we'll do that for a Puka episode proper.
Yep.
But we would like to talk about the moon landing for a minute.
Really?
Yeah. There was no belief in fairies for years and years, and eventually life became just boring for everyone after the Shattering, where you had the Renaissance, and yeah, you had imagination in the Renaissance, but most of that was vampiric shit. And then you had colonization, and then you had all the damn wars, you had the Industrial Revolution, and people are now focusing only on the present and the earthly and how am I going to get some money? How am I going to advance my career? I want to find a wife. I want to have kids. I don't really think about playing pretend anymore or thinking about cryptids or thinking about conspiracies or thinking about anything like that. That changed in 1969 with the moon landing. That's when it happened, right? I'm not talking about my ass for this, am I?
Well, it was a number of things. It was known. It was known as ground.
1969, that's when it was.
Yeah, it was known as Groundhog Day, more or less.
Yeah, but the puka.
Yes, for the Phuket, it was Groundhog Day.
Happy February 2nd, by the way.
We're fucking Halloween and Groundhog's Day in the same day. What a fucking
How
holiday!
many?
And it's
How
Labor Day
many?
today, isn't it? We got the
Yeah,
holiday trifecta.
we are celebrating 3 holidays today.
Yes.
It's also your unbirthday.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's my birthday too.
Oh fuck! How dead am I?
You better have a beer with you right now. I'm going to drink.
Uh, I was actually promising myself not to drink this week because I got super fucked up on Saturday, I got fucked up on Friday, and I was hungover all my D&D game on Saturday. So I'm trying to stay off the sauce at least until Ren Fair this coming weekend.
I drink a Pepsi instead.
I got a water with me. I'll be boring.
Well, I already drank it. Well, I drank without you already.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll have another one for me. Not right now. After.
And it's funny when people, typically the Marxists who have taken over the fandom, get mad at you for talking about conspiracy theories in World of Darkness when This is a game about conspiracy theories.
Yeah, obviously, especially in fucking Vampire. That's like your whole thing.
And speaking of moon landing, did we land on the moon? Did we?
Yes.
Did we?
Yes, we
Are you
fucking
sure
did.
about that? Are you sure about that?
Don't be a dick. We landed on the goddamn moon.
You
We
gotta
sent
cite a
up
source on
shit
that
into
one.
the sky for like fucking 50 years, and we're still throwing shit into the sky. It is the reason that we have cool stuff floating around. We have no less than 20 satellites flying above our heads with nothing better to do than help you get to the grocery store.
But you ask about the video that was taken from the moon. And that's when the conspiracy gets crazy because a lot of people today, the skeptics involved, will look at the moon landing video and say that's not what it looks like when you walk on the moon. Because it looks like he's on a trampoline instead of the zero gravity that you get when you're on, well, not zero gravity, but low gravity when you're on the moon. And on top of that, they say that there's no way a signal should have been able to get from the moon to Earth with technology at that time. Granted, we did have nuclear submarines in the 1950s, but, you know, a bit of a stretch if we had TV technology already that good.
Well,
And
we had satellite broadcasts. They were very crude at the time, but we still had them, and it was that
and
satellite broadcast that would have made it possible.
may I ask you what would they have aired if Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong died in the moon landing instead of landing on the moon? What would they have shown then?
Well,
You had
the
to get that
thing,
footage out. You had to get that footage out. You had to beat Russia. So, is it possible that they pre-recorded the video and then aired that video around the time that Buzz and Neil would have been on the moon? And it was
that's
a
fucking
Hollywood actor
stupid.
directed by Stanley Kubrick. And that's the video you're
Have
seeing.
you
It's
been
not actually
watching
the moon.
Agent Elvis? You've been watching
reason
fucking
why
Agent Elvis, haven't you?
the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that kind of conversation revitalized the changelings. Because now you're having people who are thinking of fantasies and thinking of fantastical situations like that, and now people are questioning things again. Where, thanks to the conspiracy theory coming into popular existence, changelings now have new glamour to eat off of. You start having a massive surge in power of changelings again, leading to the trods, the portals between the dreaming and the material plane, reopening. This is a message to you. Keep your conspiracy theories going. It helps the changelings.
Yes, it's good for you.
Yeah, the more you question, the more power the fairies get.
Ask a lot of questions. Question everything. Be like fucking be like Socrates
Socrates.
and ask. I drank what?
Yeah, Socrates.
Yeah, Socrates.
Stupid.
Why'd you find that
And then
so funny?
So in the 1970s, you have the portals reopen, and now the Shee, spelled Sidhe. It's Celtic. Don't worry about it. But they come back, and they say we have been living in Arcadia and the Dreaming for centuries, and we have our own rules. And we see that every single one of you, all you other changelings, you have your shadow governments. That's cool, but we're back, and we're in charge because we say so. And none of the Kiths were okay with that.
Yes, this became known as an event called the Accordance War.
It starts with a night known as the Night of Iron Knives. The Shee say, we're going to discuss future politics. Please come alone to this dinner party we're having. Nothing is going to happen to you at this party. And all the leaders come over, and they're all stabbed to death by the Shee with weapons made out of iron. Hence name of the night.
And
I
that
mean,
didn't
pretty
fly with the
self-explanatory.
people that hated the shit out of iron.
Leading to a 30-year war between, I think it's around 30 years, but it's a war between, hold on, man, I'm gonna fact check myself on that one for a minute.
About what? The Night of the Iron Knives or
Yeah,
the
yeah, Knife Iron Knives. We're gonna get an actual year on that.
Yeah, because I mean, I know it happened. It was called the Beltane Massacre, which was which was the gunshot heard around the world, so to speak, or
Yeah,
the
I'm not
stab
getting a
wound
date on it.
heard around the world.
Yeah,
It says
I
it
don't have the
returned to
date, so
Earth in the 1970s. It doesn't say when it ended.
we will say 1970, just for the sake of
Right
convenience.
after the moon landing, we stuck it to
And
those dirty commies.
leading to a war that would go on for years, the Accordance War, where it was the Shee versus everyone. Every other Kith was fighting against the Shee. And it's very similar to One War of Rage, isn't it?
Yes, more or less.
So the Shee, same as the Giru, ended up sweeping the entire war because they took their weapons with them from Arcadia. And Shee weapons tend to be crazy powerful. And their cantrips tend to be too. Would you like to know a fun Shee cantrip?
Go ahead.
The ability to control time.
See, now that's just cheating. They just have the
It,
Zawardo, is what they got.
they came in with all these different cheat codes and started winning the war. And of course, all the other kits didn't really have anything that broken mechanically. And you can take that in your game. Your storyteller might not appreciate it.
Yeah, if you have a Shee in your fucking changeling game, your storyteller's gonna hate the shit out of you.
And this would eventually end around towards the end of the 70s, the early 80s, when there was going to be a final stand with all the other kits fighting in the tunnels of New York City. And you have the General of the Shee running in with a sword called Caliburn, but he dies and the sword is lost. And there's this massive amount of chaos. Nobody really knows who's the leader anymore. We killed the general. Did we win the war? They still have forces. Are we losing the war? Until High King David of the Shee took the sword after he found it, raised it into the air, and using its power said, "We're done fighting. War over. War over. No more war. I am going to be the king of all of you, and my first order is that we're going to stop fighting and try to figure this shit out." And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And High King David, as of the meta plot, is still in power. And he isn't King David from the Old Testament. It just happens to be his name. And now we have the Modern Knights. We mentioned courts before. Let's discuss those. You have the Seelie and the Unseelie. What do you think those are from a guy who played D&D?
Seelie or good, unseelie or bad. That's all I got. I didn't do a whole lot of fake campaigning.
The Seelie like playing tricks on people, and that's all the damage they're going to do. But they want to uplift people and give them good dreams, while the Unseelie want to give them nightmares. But the Unseelie don't kill people anymore; they just scare them. Think Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a good example.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's our job, but we're not mean in our town of Halloween.
More or less.
For this Halloween, play an Unseelie game.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, record it and then send it to us.
Please do.
Yeah,
We will give
have
you
an
a
X
shout
account.
out.
You can. We have an X account now. Send your stuff to the X account.
Yes, the X account. What do we call it? Because I forgot what we called
We'll
it.
we'll put it in the description. Fuck it.
All right.
Yeah, and there is one other court. If you're one of the few people who watched my tier list when I was talking about the World of Darkness games, this is the darkest villain I've ever seen in the World of Darkness, dude. The Shadow Court.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know the powers of the changelings, and I told you about the scenarios involving the changelings, where they tend to be your childhood friends, the people that you swear are angels but are just coming towards you because they sense that you're sad and are trying to uplift you, or just assholes who want to scare you, but that's all as much as they're going to do. The Shadow Court are basically suicide bombers and public shooters with the powers of fairies.
Jesus.
And instead of using your powers to help people, You've looked at the world, and the fairies aren't going to accomplish anything. I mean, the three ways the world of darkness is going to end is either in Gehenna, the apocalypse, or ascension. We will have no end of the world caused by fairies. We certainly won't have one caused by Kuei Jin because the Yama Kings are destined to fail. The Wraiths, well, they're already dead. Forget about them. And yeah, there is the possibility that we could have a Hunter ending, but we will never have a changing induced ending. So the Fae aren't going anywhere. The Shadow Courts say, if we're going down, we're going to dedicate the rest of our lives, however long we live, to taking as many people down with us as possible. And that is such a dark idea because you have so much potential to make the lives of everyone around you better, or just improve the lives of the people that you share, a court with or a kith with. But instead, you've dedicated your entire existence to causing as much destruction as possible.
It is quite literally those that have not only given up on themselves, but everybody else.
Not even the Black Spiral dancers do that, dude, because the Black Spirals believe they're working towards a goal. They have a god in the form of a worm that they follow. And the Nefandi, at the infernal mages, or the mages who just worship evil itself, at least they have a unifying ideology because they're evil because that's what they do. They're evil. And they just are evil because we just enjoy being evil. But the Shadow Courts, it's just pure nihilism. And it just makes her the darkest antagonist I've ever seen in the world of darkness.
Contrary to what Walter Sojak says, these nihilists can in fact harm you.
And that is really all we need to talk about when it comes to changing backstory at the moment.
Yes.
Let's talk. Now, for the meat of the video, how does this tie into Werewolf? We already discussed that a little bit, but we'll do this kith by kith.
All right.
In the base game of Changing to Dreaming, you have 9 playable race classes to play as. These are called the Kith. Of course, it's got its own cultural meaning and origin, and when Justin Achille makes Changeling 5th edition, he's going to call it something stupid. Because, we can't have culture in any game anymore.
Well, yeah, because, standing to misrepresent culture is a even greater crime than, pretending it doesn't exist.
I'm so worried about making a mistake that I'm just not going to represent anything anymore.
I'm going to quote this channel that my friend Sean recommended me called Flapper, Professor James O'Flannery, as he always says, do the reading.
I mean, stay in your lane, Justin. You're a guy who wrote for Vampire, and you did a pretty good job with Vampire. Stay out of the rest of the world, Darkness, dude.
Yes. I know you guys are broke and you can't hire any other staff, but for fuck's sake.
I'll give you credit with Vampire 5e because I do like what you did with the Giovanni in 5e, but that's the one thing I really like about the change in the meta plot with 5th edition. And of course, you had no business writing Hunter or Werewolf. So, if you touch Changeling, we'll be even more mad than we were with Werewolf.
Look, we are hard, but we are fair. Thank you for Vampire 5th edition, and fuck you for Werewolf 5th edition.
Yeah. Go back to making Exalted your most cynical product you ever made.
Anyway.
It sold so well the first time, it'll certainly do well this time.
Jesus. Okay. Kith and werewolves.
Because you did so much research on them before, let's begin with the puka.
Okay, so starting with the
You have the Jester hat?
Yes, I will get the Jester hat up so everybody can see it. This is the Jester hat.
Behold their icon.
This is the icon of the puka. Now, the puka first came about during the Paleolithic age when humans first tried to gain control over the animals they hunted. They were said that the first puka that was a prehistoric shaman in the foothills of the Pyrenees and the Les Trois Ferrains, I can't speak French, they call this painting the Sorcerer, depicted as a half-man, half-stag. And initially, the early puka in the Paleolithic age would instill fear and awe in humans. And as they began to evolve in this time, as mortal dreamers began to assign them with certain reasoning, lifelike capabilities, they gained the ability to shape change, which is where the Celts began to believe them as dangerous tricksters. And that is the real core of the Puka identity, is that they are the perennial tricksters and comedians of the fairies and of the changeling breeds, with a penchant for pranks and lying a whole lot. They don't mean any harm, but they drive pretty much everybody else crazy with their tomfoolery, even though they just want to have fun. They can't wrap their heads around why everyone is such a stick in the mud. And, you know, all they really want to do is just have some fun. Play tricks on people, change into animals, and then pretend to be the animals, and take somebody on a wild goose chase is what the Puka do more than anything. How deep do you need me to go for the Puka? Because I got a lot of notes.
Should we talk about the fact that they can't tell the truth ever?
No, the Puka cannot tell the truth. That is one of their banes, is that one of their frailties, as it's called in the book, is lies. People may trust Puka, but no one in their right mind would believe one. They are infamous for their elaborate lies. So it's just always in their nature. It says in the rules that a Puka must make a willpower roll with a difficulty 8 in order to tell the truth. Different Puka have different styles of lying. Some Seelie will always say the opposite of what they mean. Unseelie purposefully tell the truth and then the Unseelie will occasionally tell the truth just to throw listeners off guard. And sometimes they couch their lies very carefully. If an Unseelie makes the willpower roll at the beginning of a scene, they can mix truth and lies freely, so that can make them even more dangerous. However, bear in mind, there is a whole lot of the main birthrights of the Puka are such. Firstly is shape changing. So each Puka has, as I said before, each Puka has an affinity with an animal of their choice. When completely alone, they can shape change into that animal or turn back from it in a turn. Costs a point of glamour, but reverting back is free. The Puka has all the animal's natural abilities, although it's only possible to assume the forms of mundane beasts. Even the large, scary forms tend to be more playful than deadly, even when a fight breaks out.
And a little message to everyone who wants to make Werewolf the Apocalypse their furry roleplay game. Shut up, go play Changing to Dreaming instead.
Yeah, basically.
This is Kith for it.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to just play, if you want to bog down Werewolf with making it a sex game instead, just play Changing instead.
I mean,
there's no place for that.
To be fair,
we are having sexual content appearing in our Werewolf game, but that's not the focus of it. In Changing to Dreaming, it kind of is, depending on what game you're playing.
Let me tell you, it's my focus. I'll tell you that much.
And now that we've sealed our fate in that game too, we took back Assistant Totem.
Yeah. Oh boy, we meet Ragnar again. We're gonna be in some fucking trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. Aside from that, is also Confidant. The innate charm of a Puka can break down the barriers of even the coldest people. Aiding a fairy's curiosity to that makes them an outstanding confidant. Once during conversation, a Puka may roll perception and empathy or subterfuge to get a changeling or mortal to spill their guts. The difficulty is the victim, quote-unquote's willpower. Each success shows a truthful answer to one personal question. This isn't an instantaneous effect, though. It takes time and role-playing to coax out the information. I think it's really interesting about the Puka that they are both incredibly empathetic, but also just compulsive liars. It's like they're good at. I feel like that's an interesting two sides of the same coin. It's like while they're incredible at lying, it means they're also really good at seeking out the truth, and I thought that was really interesting about them in general.
You also have the Ragabash gift, Liar's Face, where imagine a Ragabash having a conversation with a Puka.
Oh my god, that'd be like playing 5D chess, which I have done, and that game ain't no fucking joke, let me tell you.
You gotta figure out who is telling what and how much of the information is truthful.
Yeah,
With that said,
oh yeah,
With that said, since the reason we talked so much about the Puka is because Kyle did a lot of information on these guys because Kyle really likes these guys.
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, that, and I also wasn't sure how much I needed to know for this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, don't worry too much about it. And with what you have read, what tribe do you think would work with these guys the most?
What werewolf tribe? I mean, well, another thing, the Puka love fucking. That's just another thing I read. There's like a whole section on Puka romance. So,
There's an entire page. Um, there's no
yes.
way we can show it in a YouTube video,
No.
but it's it's a puka in question in like cat fetish bondage gear.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull that up. Anyway, so ostensibly I'd say the Children of Gaia, but given how good they are at weaving both elaborate lies, listening well, and being able to empathize with people, I'd also say the Shadow Lords. Because the Shadow Lords themselves are also infamous for, putting down other Garrow just to stay ahead. So I feel like getting a Puka to sit down and have just a really long, drawn-out conversation with a Shadow Lord where multiple roles, multiple points of glamour need to be used, multiple points of gnosis need to be used in order to try and outfox one another would make a good, just singular session in of itself.
And you would be right saying Shadow Lords, but you can safely assume that any unseelie version of a fairy um, will be talking with the Shadow Lords, because as we talked about in our episode on the Shadow Lords and from reading Shadow Lords first edition, yes, they do have open communication with the unseelie fae. They are friends. They talk a lot. They do a lot of operations together. The Shadow Lords talk to the unseelie. It and if you want to pull up second edition Shadow Lords, we already discussed the issues with that book and how that was a completely different author who was very green to World of Darkness when he wrote that book. It does irk me that a lot of the like splat mixing was toned down for second edition too.
Yeah,
Because
that's why we talk about it so
of,
much.
and a lot of stuff I had to figure out with some of these. I had to go to first edition books for the werewolves.
I mean,
But
I feel like part of the fun comes with the fact that we aren't afraid to mix splats. Like we have.
it's
Go ahead.
the World of Darkness. Mix the fucking splats.
History does not occur in a vacuum, which is why
Yeah.
the events of our vampire game, which preceded our werewolf game that we're recording, are technically canon in John's story.
And the best World of Darkness game, Bloodlines, involved so much other lore. You had an entire level that was based around Wraith. Have a segment that's based around not just Werewolf, but a Rokia is a boss fight in that game. And one of the NPCs that you talk to is a technocrat who can give you quests where you help the democracy. So, the vampire game knew that it needed to mix other splats into it because it's the World of Darkness at the end of the day. Do it.
This is basically our episode where we say, yes, mix the splats. Mix all of the splats.
Do it. There is one other tribe that they get along very well with. The Silent Striders.
Really?
Well, if you're living the life of a Silent Strider, wouldn't you want to have a clown follow you around for a few days?
Yeah, it would help liven things up a little bit. I mean, as we've discussed, like the Silent Striders are very quiet, very observant, but also very sharp. And that would honestly be great to have around with the Puka, because the Puka are very joking. They're very lighthearted compared to the very serious and very focused Silent Striders. I think that'd be an interesting kind of buddy cop dynamic between the two.
Yeah, it's also the ancient history between the two, because the Silent Striders and the Puka fought beside each other when it came to fighting Set.
Yes.
And the Puka don't forget that they still have their history, and they still remember that they were friends with the Silent Striders way back when.
Yeah, I have it written in my notes somewhere. Like we know that Anubis was not one of the Puka, even though they say that he was. But
Hathor.
yeah,
The Egyptian Egyptian cow goddess.
Yes. There was also, they
And
said Horus was as well.
well, that's not true at
Yes.
all.
So again, like I said, the Puka, pathological liars, which is why a lot of my notes are incorrect.
It, and Isis was a single mom the entire time.
Yeah. So it goes. Anyway,
There was no Osiris, there was no Set, there was no Horus. It was just Isis.
it was
according
just
to the
all
book.
Puka. It was all. It's oops, all Puka. It's a box
Yeah.
of fucking Captain Crunch.
Give me that Egyptian mythology book, throw it out the window. You don't need any more of the Puka here to tell you the truth. Yeah. And now we will go alphabetical order for the rest of the video.
Yes.
Next up, the Boggins. Pull up that B.
All right. B time.
That. You remember what a gnome looks like in D&D?
Yes.
That's essentially what the Boggins are.
The Ibenomes.
Where they're small old men or old women who just love helping you make stuff. Not so much structures, because that's the knockers later down the line, but they just love helping you on any sort of project. You're building a farm, the Boggins would love to help you. You need help in your homework, the Boggins would love to help you. You're trying to make a recipe for a potluck supper that your neighbors are hosting. The Boggins would love to help you. They're just the nicest, most helpful people in the World of Darkness. More so than the Salubri, because there's no trade with the Salubri. A Salubri will need your blood. A Boggin will just help you because they just enjoy helping people.
They
That's what the
represent the
Boggins do.
Lollipop Guild.
There's also a reason why the bee is their icon, and that's because these guys just work constantly. You know that whole phrase, all work, no play? Work is also play with the Boggins. They just love working. It's like my dad, where my dad would just, every time he comes home, he's always working instead of relaxing. And even on his days off, he's doing it too.
Yeah, my dad does the
Yeah.
same thing. Like some days he'll kick back every now and again, but most of the time
Yeah,
he's got some kind of project to work on.
yeah. The Boggins are your dad. They're ultimately just everyone's dad.
Yes.
Yeah, which is why in most of their artwork they tend to be like short, old, bald men, with a little bit of cuteness to them.
Come on, Timmy needs a science project worked on.
And the Boggins tend to get along with everyone that they meet. Like even the unseelie Boggins, they can be mean, but they can't bring themselves to be mean. Majority of Boggins are unseelie, and they get along great with. Would you like to guess?
You said pretty much everybody.
Yeah,
So-
pretty much everybody, but one tribe in particular.
What tribe likes building a whole lot of shit?
Let's see, besides the Glasswalkers.
That was what I was initially thinking.
Yeah. Think more like while saying like summer day projects. This is the guessing game. Everyone play along at home as Kyle figures it out.
Yeah, trying to put it together. I mean, I know
The,
that
the answer is looking you right in the face about this one too.
I can't say the Uctena.
That your guess?
I'm thinking the Uctena, but I know that's probably not right.
The Fianna.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, oh, help us with our brewing. Absolutely. I'll be right there.
Well, also like the whole like dad aspect of it too, because the Fianna really, really, really value family. So the Boggins do that too, because the Boggins are. I always say, like, if you're playing Changing to Dreaming, you're either playing Madoka Magica or you're playing Fairly Odd Parents. This is the Fairly Odd Parents in playable form. If you want to be Cosmo and Wanda, you play as a Boggin.
That sounds about right. So, family-oriented and always helpful. The Boggins.
I can also see them working with. They don't bring them up in the book, but I can also see them working with the Bonars.
Yeah,
Because
that
the
makes
Bonars.
sense.
Yeah, if you need help building your homeless shack beneath the overpass, you can get a Boggin to help you with it.
Yeah. I mean,
Or if you have, let's see, thinking the Get of Fenris, where the Get of Fenris will look at this little short, stubby guy and think, what was this guy doing in our base? And then the Boggin looks up and says, I can help you build armor. And they say, you're hired. Come in with us.
amazing. The Boggin, they're just nice little fellas.
Yep.
Is Ernie from who what
Sesame Street?
no the cookie brand.
Yep. Oh, the Keeper Elves.
Yeah, the Keebler elves. Is
Yes,
Ernie
that would
just a
be them.
Boggin?
That would be them too.
We love to make cookies for all the young lads.
I could see Zach doing that in like his old lady way.
Oh, we love to see cookies for all the buggins.
I'm imagining a red talon walking through the woods and he sees smoke coming from a tree, and he runs over to it and sees there's a door and 2 windows in it,
Yeah, that confused the shit out of him.
and he sticks his head in the window and he sees all these short old men making cookies.
Hello, young
See-
man. Would you like a cookie?
See, now that I ever think about it too, it's also like very hobbity the way the boggin works.
Very much so, yes. And
Yeah.
I really like them now.
If you want a moment of levity in your game, but you don't want to have a prankster because maybe the Redcap is already doing that, put a boggin in your game.
Yes, basically.
Next up is the issue. Pull up that compass.
Oh, he's points
Uh,
north, baby.
The issue are the Middle Eastern fairy.
I already know who they work with.
Yeah. Wolf, would you like to guess the tribe?
They're silent striders, baby.
They are seen as the personification of mischief in Yoruba legend, which is where they get their name from. But they're not so much associated with Nigeria, as much as they are with, say, Turkish and Egyptian mythology. Because a lot of their clothes that they wear in their Kith book are very Arabian Nights kind of themed. They dress like Justin Trudeau.
I fucking spit all over my microphone. God damn it. I was that caught me. It shouldn't be that funny, but that caught me off guard. God damn it.
See,
Getting up some
So-
mischief ourselves on this episode. Sweet dreams.
I want that to be what Justin Trudeau is remembered for the rest of his life.
It probably will be by people who have a sense of humor.
Yep, I will never let that go when it comes to him. But pretty much you can very quickly guess what else they like because, once again, I have to remind Werewolf Den of this. Nomadic culture is a thing in the Middle East, so these guys have a lot of similarities with the Silent Striders because, once again, these are nomads because you want to go where the water and the animals are because, you live in a desert. Your resource isn't going to last forever, which is why you need to travel. And because of that, the Ishu are very good storytellers. They have a story for every occasion. You played Lisa the Painful.
For about 20 minutes.
And there's a character in that game called Nern Guan, where you just say hello to him and he automatically starts talking about this, going to his neighbor's house and his wife, being an idiot, brought potato salad when everyone else was going to bring potato salad. And he starts thinking about divorcing his wife after she brings the potato salad. And they start going into stories like that, where just saying anything will trigger a memory in a issue, and they'll immediately start going off on a story.
I sound
So-
like interesting conversationalists.
The super Galliard is what these guys are. You think a Galliard werewolf can tell a story? The issue won't even need to take a breath. They just keep going on forever and never stop.
I don't know, that might get a little tiring.
And when it comes to interactions with other humans, typically the issue like talking to kids, namely because they like playing house. And well, it's funny because in our family we have we have a 4-year-old girl in our family who I can automatically use to reference that she enjoys playing supermarket and playing with her Barbies and everything like that. And Ishu will eat that up. They love doing that with kids. Really like seeing kids play out different roles in their life where this is what it's going to look like when you go to school. This is what it's going to look like if you take this job. They really like doing that. And it's because the Ishu have seen it all. They know what that job is like, and they can automatically be the point of realism for the kid and they can start helping them steer the kid in the right direction where, oh, you want to be a model? This is the kind of stuff you need to know. I'm going to subtly plant that in the time that we play together. And then when I leave you, you'll have all the things you need to know in order to become a model in the modeling industry. Where the issue are you're like your silent guides where they just say the right thing at the right point in your life that changes your life forever.
Yeah, I can see why, after just the 3 that we've talked about, I can see why Changeling is such an uplifting game.
Yeah, it really is. You need some light in the world of darkness.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
otherwise there would be no reason to play.
And you know that all the backstage stuff with Game Grumps, Danny and Aaron are mostly innocent, but it's their MC in Polaris that did a lot of guilty shit.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, Danny's for the most part, as far as we know, clean. But he talked about having a childhood memory, and he said the reason why he went into music is because when he was 5-year-old in kindergarten.
His kindergarten teacher would play guitar and they'd sing together.
Yeah, that's what an Ishu would do.
So Danny met an Ishu.
And try to guess how many Ishu met the Children of Gaia back in the 1960s.
All of them?
We're going to talk about the Children of Gaia a little bit more next week. That's our next episode. But the Children of Gaia infiltrated the Dead Hands, the Grateful Dead crowds, and they walked around with the Grateful Dead following them, but not just them, like Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones too. And you can guess, if you're going to wander and you're going to follow a band and you do a bunch of hitchhiking, guess who you have a very high chance of running into?
A Silent Strider?
No, the Ishu.
Oh, sorry, I got the fucking...
Well, it's not Strider too, but, they're not going to go see the show. They're just on their next job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And another tribe I can see working great with the Ishu is the Uktena.
Why the Uktena?
Given they have their fingers in Africa.
Oh, okay. Suppose that makes sense.
Yeah.
I figured it was like if they need help unraveling the mysteries of their powers, and then they could talk to the Ishu to point them in the right direction.
Well, that too, but it's because it's not just being Native American that makes you a member of the Uktena. It's just being any race that isn't white makes you an Uktena.
Makes sense.
So you bet that they have the Uktena have cairns in Africa, especially with as many unnatural, untouched places there are in Africa too.
Well, natural, untouched places.
Yeah. I'm
flubbing your words.
The words a little bit.
What did you have to drink again? Was that just a beer?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were going to have another tequila incident.
It's also the ADHD. Don't worry about it.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. I have the wild brain IRL.
Yep, my man's already on Bedlam's doorstep.
We have our next Kith, the Knockers.
What knockers?
Pull up the gear. Pull up the gear.
Gears. Drop the hammer.
Do you remember hearing the legend of the Tommy Knockers?
No, actually. I don't know why.
So, these are kind of like boogeymen for miners, where you're mining, and all of a sudden you start hearing the pop, pop, pop of a cave-in, which is not a sound you want to hear if you're a miner.
Oh, no. That'd be like start praying.
But miners started saying that there were little fairies in the mines with little itty-bitty pickaxes that were causing the cave-ins. That was the sound you were hearing. Which is where we get the name Knockers for these guys.
So they don't like iron that much that they're gonna fucking kill some miners.
Oh, no, the Knockers, they want the iron. Because if we have the iron, humans don't have it. Gonna hoard the iron to keep it out of the enemy's hand.
Okay.
And the Knockers have a very strange description because they're described as like Semitic clowns, if that makes any sense to you. Where a majority of Knockers, for whatever reasons, are mostly Eastern European, so Ashkenazis. But on top of their forms, when you see them in like in full Kith form, um, we'll explain that mechanic later, but um, they tend to appear not just pale white, but like face paint white. And red markings will appear around their noses, their lips, their eyes, and their cheeks when they enter their Kith form. Oh, sorry, it's called their Fey Mian. You're Jewish, does that offend you?
Oh, no, not at all.
Behold, it's not offensive.
I was like, I don't know why they'd happen to be Semitic. I guess they just are. I guess that's where the myth cropped up.
Yeah, it is.
So then that's fine then, you know. That's cultural history.
Yeah, you wonder why we call it a phylactery. It's because the Jews came up with the idea of the phylactery.
Yeah, here you go.
Yeah. Wizards of the Coast is not that hard, but I digress. There's something that the Knockers love to do.
Aside from mining?
Build. They love building structures, namely robots and weapons in Modern Knights.
Oh, gee, I wonder who they're going to be friends with.
You want a gun that's got 4 shotgun barrels attached to it, and all 4 barrels fire at the same time, firing explosive pellets that blow up on contact. And the way you reload the gun is that you shake it until it stops making a rattling noise.
It sounds like a fucking BB gun.
It's that the Knockers, they make weapons and robots that work because they say they work.
It's like, hey, I glued some tweaks to this Pepsi can. It's a robot now.
You remember me telling you about the Orcs 40K? That's their technology.
Yes, that's amazing.
They may or may not be able to pick up an empty pistol, just shout bang, and then the pistol fires a bullet.
If there's ever like a fucking Kith animated series, we need Mel Brooks to play one, because that'd be funny as shit. Just Mel Brooks walking around, and he picks up a gun, bang. Oh,
he probably would do it. He's a pretty sweet old man now.
Well, not just that, he loves animation too. I've been reading his autobiography.
Which is why he did Paws of Thunder, Paws of Fury.
I didn't get there, but I know he's in some other. I don't remember what, because it's been a minute since I've
Shee and Alley.
Wait, who did he play in Shee and Alley?
No, he put money behind the movie. That's what he did.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I loved the hell out of that movie, so excellent call.
Yeah, we may or may not make a video of that in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
I'm going to fucking get my projector screen, I'm going to put it outside, and I'm going to sit outside with a cognac and a cigar and just watch Shee and Alley.
Yeah, we're going to do a director's commentary or something.
Yes, and I'm gonna do it outside.
But we didn't direct the movie.
Well, just viewer commentary. It's Mystery Science Theater, that shit.
Would you like to guess which tribe the Knockers talk to the most?
Oh, gee, I fucking wonder who. They couldn't be the Glasswalkers, could they?
Yes, they bring them up by name in their Kith book. That, funny enough, they really don't like the Fianna.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that makes sense. I mean, the Fianna don't like the Weaver.
Yeah, it's that the Knockers need to constantly defend themselves by saying, we're not inducing banality. Would you like to explain how an airplane works? It works because we didn't think we could fly. Now we can. And it's human imagination that created that technology. There's nothing banal about it. It's imagination. It's science. There's wonder to be had in science. And that's the argument that the Knockers need to constantly make with everyone around them.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense, yeah.
It's very hard to be a Knocker. They also hate one other werewolf tribe in particular.
The Red Talons or the Wendigo?
Black Spiral Dancers.
Why the Black... I mean, everybody hates the Black Spiral Dancers, but why?
It's kind of surprising to me too because they brought them up by name, but it's because they take their weapons and their tools that they make and use them for destruction, stuff that
Ah,
they weren't
okay.
made for. They say it's the Black Spirals who are taking our inventions and dragging our name through the mud. And if every single one of them could die overnight, that would be great.
Well, if that's the case,
That'd be
then like that'd be
great.
really funny if even though the Fianna think they're even the Fianna think they're Weaver, and then the Knockers have to like help them fight a Black Spiral Dancer, and they go, "Never the Weaver fight and all bad," and they go,
If you
"God damn
want
it,
to,
it's not." And they go, "God damn it, it's not Weaver's fight." That
just get like a Seth Rogen AI to voice.
it's not Weaver's stuff, I swear.
Oh my god, I hate
Fucking
that.
Donkey Kong. Swear to God.
I hate that shit so much.
Please tell me that in the Mario movie, Seth Rogen does the DK rap.
No, they get that playing over. Like they just have like the song
Damn
made for
it.
Donkey Kong 64.
See, like, I
Yeah,
don't like
I
Seth
know that
Rogen all that much, but I think that would have been funny as sin, man.
you blew all this money on Seth Rogen, and then you just get him doing himself, the voicing a gorilla.
Yeah, that's that. I'm not gonna go off on a tangent on that. Anyway, so yeah, Knockers build
Uh,
shit.
Yeah, they're not Jewish. You just look it for
Yep.
whatever reason. Not the big nose shit. Forget about that. That's not it. And
We already talked about the
really,
next one. So, sorry, what's
really,
up?
I don't see the knockers working with anyone else though, because the knockers are very testy. It's that they're perfectionists, and if you start distracting them from their work too often, they get incredibly pissed off. And the knockers are known for swearing, like in particular swearing is what they're known for.
That's funny as shit.
Um,
Well, I mean,
like
miners
to
do
the
swear
point,
a lot too, so.
like to the point where it gets worse than just saying the C word on camera.
Okay.
Yeah. So, uh, maybe don't get extreme with your language as the knockers typically do in canon.
Unless you're, well, I mean, ask your group, and if they're like,
Yeah.
bro, we don't care, then, sing the cuss word song by Rusty Cage every 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I think that's about it with the knockers and Puka. Really, these guys can just work with any changing breed, really. Not just
Or
werewolves,
any
but just
Garo?
anyone. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, that's true.
like, behold, I'm a werecat, and they just turn into a domestic cat, and all the Balam are looking at them.
will
blinking
say,
their eyes.
though, that just overall, there's one that they don't like. They don't like the red caps. Like,
Is that? Oh yeah,
I don't know why. It doesn't give me a huge reason on that, but just views on other
because
kin.
they kill people.
Yeah, views on other kin. It says on red caps, and the narrator of the book goes, here, light the fuse on this and give it to that red cap over there. He'll be ever so thankful, and I'll just wait behind this troll. They don't like the red caps because they kill people.
Well, we're going to talk about the red caps now.
Hell yeah. That's my
You've
bitch.
met these guys.
Johnny
before.
got something.
You've met these guys before, and we have yet to meet Andre Penalty Shot in our game yet. Yeah, I had fun naming these guys because I named them all after sports.
Well, they love sports. That's in their thing, isn't it?
Yeah, like any sort of like physical sport, the Red Caps love. There's pictures of them playing baseball um in their Kith book, but more on top of that, they also like professional wrestling, or if you want to get even further than that, UFC fighting. Granted, that wasn't a thing at the time; it didn't take off yet. But if we were to write Changing to Dreaming today, the Red Caps would be all over that.
Yep, absolutely.
And thinking about what else the Red Caps have, big teeth.
Yeah, as you saw from good old Danny, he had some chompers on him.
Every changeling that's a red cap has that when they go into their full Mian form, where they stop looking like a human, and that bite is for the most part a one-hit kill if you attack something with it. because you're able to bite through any surface with 1 point of glamour spent. And if you aim for a head and you successfully bite the head, that's the encounter done.
God, I miss Donnie.
Granted, I think you need to spend another point of glamour in order to swallow the thing you bit if it's not typically food.
Well, I mean, you could chew it up and spit it out at least.
And there's another thing that the Redcaps are known for. They're caps that are red from blood. They will take a hat and they will soak it in the blood of somebody that they have beaten to death, and then put it on their head, and they will wear that to intimidate people in battle.
That's fucking sick, dude.
Hence why they are called the Redcaps.
So this is the kind of fairy that would convince a kid to finally stand up to his school bully.
They might go a little too far, though, because they might end up giving the kid a pair of brass knuckles.
Here, just slip these onto your hand. And then when he's not looking, you crack him in the back of the skull.
Aim for his teeth. He's gotta be feeding through a tube. It's not how to like a die by the time you're done. You didn't do it right.
Aren't that's why I love Donnie. He always gives people a hard time.
That's also why they tend to be very unpopular amongst all Kith. It's because they are incredibly violent. All 100% of the time, 24/7. And the Bruja have an easier time talking to each other than the Redcaps do talking to anyone, and this includes each other. Because the Redcaps will typically stop having conversations with each other and just talk with their fists instead.
Just have a Redcap moment. It's like in the Boondocks, but it's Redcaps.
Would you like to guess what werewolf tribe they like the most?
The fucking Get.
This is a trick question.
Wait,
they like all of them equally.
Well, yeah, because they all kill things.
Yeah, they say in the book, I'm paraphrasing, they have big fangs, they have big claws, they have big bodies, they get angry, they like to fight. Works for me.
That about does it. Except the bastard keeps throwing beer bottles at my caravan.
Just pick any tribe that you're a part of, and you can fit a Redcap into that story. Your mileage may vary with each of the tribes you talk to, because of course that Redcap better not have a penis if they're talking to the Black Furies.
Oh yeah.
And the Fianna, absolutely. The Shadow Lords, absolutely. They would both love talking to a Redcap. The Children of Gaia, no.
Yeah, I think that'd be where the line is drawn as far as the Garrow goes.
And with what you said about the Gea Fenris, they would accept a Redcap if the Redcap manages to roll high enough in initiative and get that first bite in on the Gea Fenris.
Oh.
Because as we know with Grimm, every fight with him ends in one punch.
Yeah, basically.
So, if you're changing the dreaming game and you run into a Gea Fenris, pray that your dexterity is higher than his. And if your storyteller rolls a 10 on that initiative roll, you give up. You're not getting through that.
Yeah, unless he misses, but that's a long shot.
Yeah, don't bet on that.
No.
Next up, the Seders.
Yes. Pan flute time.
Guys who may or may not be more horny than the Puka. You aren't too familiar with Greek myth. Let me just say that every myth involving satyrs in Greek mythology typically involves sex in some form or fashion.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
They have a unique cantrip too called Aphrodisiac.
The funky cold Medina.
Guess what that does?
Oh, you drink it and it makes you want to fuck.
Yeah, there's a reason why you tend to call these guys horny bastards.
I also would like to point out that, like, I know it's a pan flute in their logo, but it honestly looks like a bunch of those like
Like
fucking
cigarillos?
like the 7-Eleven hot dogs with like the bun fried around it. and like tied together with a rubber band is what it looks like.
If you find one of these guys working at QT or what was it, Wawa in Maryland?
Yes, at Wawa.
Yeah. You find one of these guys who's a secret satyr.
And he's just got his pan flute rolling around in hot dogs. It's dumb as shit, but I don't care.
Right. Kyle, you know the Fianna.
Yes, absolutely.
Then you already know everything about the satyrs.
Yep. Oh, look at the handsome bastard with the goat legs. Come in. We'll show you a good time.
Yeah, it must have been very easy to write Kith book satyr because you just need to look at the Fianna and they're almost identical.
Yeah, more or less. Except
the thing
satyrs
is
are
that the
Greek.
Black Furies actually like these guys.
That's surprising.
Yeah. Well, it's because Black Furies, Greek origin, this is a Greek Kith. Guess.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, oh, hey, a satyr, cool.
See, it's cool. Let me catch him by the leg, have him grant me a little wish, and then I'll throw him back into the wild.
Basically, they just go around and they kidnap satyrs.
And if it's a woman satyr, absolutely they're being invited to the Black Fury cairn.
Yep. Like, hey, girl.
And then once the effects of aphrodisiac kick in, then they will invite them in.
Yep.
And of course, you want to have consent be key with your games, but you can see these guys get along with just about everybody. But we've already said the Fianna are the guys that they get along the best with.
And not the children of Gaia, though.
The Children of Gaia would be a close second, but they don't bring them up by name. They bring up the Fianna.
Oh, cool. Okay. They just they
Lust for life.
Yeah. They make music. They drink a lot. They party. They fight. They fuck. We're best friends.
It also helps that stag is their totem.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because Cernunnos looks like a half man, half deer, and some satyrs come off as a little deerish. So
Yeah.
you see
so it all
how the
works out.
two like each other. Yeah. And that's when we do the episode on the satyrs. That's going to be our shortest episode.
Yeah, because it's like half of the video is going to be age restricted, and the other half is lore.
It's like, do you know a Greek myth about satyrs? Bombs away, you know how to play these guys.
You're a lot better at mythology than myself, though. So
Yeah. Next up, we have the Shee. Pull up the rose.
yes, they had
The
this
guys
whole
with the
big
funny
damn
name.
war.
Why can't you just spell your name Shee?
Course of Gaelic.
And this is the one and only Kith that does not have a Kith book.
Really?
Because they didn't do anything until the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. They do have a book that's called Nobles, where it tells you about the government of the changelings, but it's more about the government than it is about the Shee themselves. They do have a little section in there about how Shee get along with everyone else, and it's written from a fairly objective standpoint, so you get the true story and not any sort of bullshit.
Really?
Yeah. And the Shee, would you like to guess who they like the most?
The Silver Fangs?
No, absolutely
Really?
not the Surfings. Yeah, no. Oh, nobody from anything likes the Silverfangs. There's only one tribe that likes the Silverfangs. That's the Fenris. That's it.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
if it's not them,
so
then it's got to be the Shadow
definitely
Lords.
for the unseelie half of the Shee, yes, it is the Shadow Lords.
And I assume for the Seelie, then it'd be Children of Gaia.
Nope, Fianna.
Again? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
People really like
I mean,
the Fianna.
The Tuatha De Fianna exists for a reason, dude.
That's true.
The Fianna, ever since the 70s, they have been doing everything they can to get the changelings back on their side. And part of that involved the changelings coming back and saying, we have returned. Let us now pull our resources together. We have remembered you because in the dreaming we technically never died and we just stayed around forever. And we would like to reinstate our relationship. And the Fianna said, yes, Yes, let's team up.
Look, mate, we don't have the White Howlers, we don't have the Goral. We've got fucking nothing. Please come be our friend.
That really was what it was like, where the Fianna leapt at the Shee, telling them, let's work together.
Absolutely. Help us protect our
And
homeland.
what these guys look like, by the way, they look like elves.
Just elves.
Yeah, a D&D or Tolkien elf. That's what they look like.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up an example that my sister's friend drew earlier today. Where the fuck did she put it? There it is. Here, I'm gonna put this up on screen. Go ahead and follow Amity Creates on Instagram. She's fucking incredible. She's also running my IRL Storm King Thunder game. Go follow Amity Creates on Instagram. Go follow Amity Creates on Instagram. Yeah. So
I'll also need her contact information because we might want to pay her for the 3.5 book.
yes. When that time comes, I'm gonna share this
Yeah.
with you here, just so you see it.
All right, boom, there we have it.
We have an elf.
And just looking at that, and the Shee don't really have anything to do with any other werewolf group.
Just the Fianna.
Yeah, just the Fianna and the Shadow Lords.
Makes sense.
And typically what you want to think of with the Shee, take the insanity of the Silverfangs, but combine it with the competence of the Ventru.
So
you have a guy who is nuts, but he knows to take his meds and do his therapy and his Tai Chi every morning, and he manages to make the right decisions.
So competent leadership, almost.
Yes. Well, actually, they are doing a pretty good job because, thanks to them, they managed to keep a veil the entire Accordance War.
That's pretty
So-
fucking amazing.
Yeah, these guys are smart.
Yes.
These guys are very smart. Feel free to get your Legolas on when you play as these guys,
Hell yeah.
because these guys also have access to the cheat code powers. That
Oh, yeah,
time
that's
manipulation,
right.
that's not the only thing they have. That's not the only thing they have. They have even crazier powers on top of that.
I didn't expect them to have just that. Like, the Zawardo is good, but what else they got?
Cryomancy,
Oh, like the Wendigo.
just like freezing a man to death.
Like the Wendigo.
But they don't need a cold wind first. They can just do it whenever.
Just fucking wow. No wonder it took like the entirety of the rest of the changelings to fight the Shee.
And they still lost.
Yeah, they only ended the war because of King David going, "Hey, we're fucking done. We're not doing this anymore."
These guys are very, very close to being mages, but they don't get the crazy dynamic spells. They only go as far as static. And
Even still, that's a
I
lot.
want to pull up like one other example of what they can do. I think Dreamcraft is another one that they have. Yeah, Dreamcraft.
What does that do?
Well, what do you think it does based off the name?
Builds dreams, I imagine.
Yep. Fixes a point of the dreaming so that instead of ever changing at the whims of the wild, it remains as the caster intended. It makes spaces in the dreaming permanent.
That's kind of fucking tight.
Yeah. Because the dreaming, as a world that constantly shifts from people's imagination, your castle tends to change overnight.
I mean,
And it's also explicitly stated that the wild, the wild spelled with a Y, the werewolf, the apocalypse wild, is involved with shaping the dreaming.
well, yeah, because the one place it can just kind of run rampant, because dreams always change.
Yeah, do not cry for the wild. He still has a faction.
Yes, he does. And they're called the Ratkin.
Yeah, he's not worth crying for anyway. He's a bit of a schmuck.
Well, pretty much any force in the world of darkness is.
Yeah, except the Weaver.
Well,
But the
no,
Weaver's too smart.
the Weaver's a prude fucker.
Yeah. And speaking of spiders, the Sluagh.
Isn't that what your changeling was in the intro?
Yes, whenever you speak with the Sluagh, they can only ever talk this loud. We'll go into detail about that when we do a Sluagh episode.
Okay, yeah, now I need to readjust your levels because I turned you up to hear your whispering.
Now I'm talking again. Tell me when you get to the right level
you're
again.
Good. You're good. You're good. You're good. Yeah, Sluagh.
It's very unfortunate that they have a spider as their icon. You might
Yes,
want
it
to change
is.
that. You might want to get rid of that dick, guys. The Weaver is your enemy.
Yeah, they didn't think that through, did they? Well, I'm sure
It's
somebody
because-
floated the idea, but everybody else talked over to them.
It's because these guys tend to be weirdos because they're like dark elves in a way, but not. It's the middle ground between the Drow and the Shatterkai from D&D,
Yeah, basically.
where you get the fascination with dark and wet places like Drow, with the moroseness of the Shatterkai. And majority of these guys are unseelie by nature. They love causing terror. We will discuss this in greater detail in our Sluagh episode that I am very much anticipating doing.
Yes.
But every Kith book starts with a legend. Theirs is about abducting a kid and stabbing him in the neck in the woods.
What the fuck did that kid do?
Well, we're going to go into detail about that in the Sluagh episode. I'm just going to leave you pondering that.
Wow, that's fucked. Fuck the Sluagh. Why do you like them so much?
Don't worry, they got their comeuppance because the Shee was around at the time, and they cursed the Sluagh because the Shee said, "We get our powers from humans. You killed one in anger. We will remove the power for you to act in anger ever again." So not only are the Sluagh emotionally stunted, they can only ever talk in a whisper.
That's probably good for the rest of the dreaming.
It is, because these guys are partially responsible for causing the Shattering because they got the attention of the Tenacracy, the Order of Reason, with their actions.
Wow, if only they would have, not been assholes, then it would have been fine. But no.
And yeah, most Sluagh today tend to be calmed, but this tends to be like your kids. It's like putting yourself in the parent's position. This is the weird adult in the park that's talking to your kid, and now your kid is acting strange because they're talking to him.
Yeah, it's like when your kid starts listening to Marilyn Manson and learns about the mall goth scene.
It's funny because they have a very big Tim Burton aesthetic, because a lot of Sluagh just look like Tim Burton characters.
Yeah, as
To
we
very
saw.
quickly describe them. And with the Sluagh, what they tend to do if they're nice, I say in air quotes, is that a kid says they have issues with a bully. Like we said with the Redcaps, the Redcap will teach the kid how to fight. The Sluagh will just say, tell me what they do to you tomorrow. And then that night, the Sluagh goes over, invades that kid's home, or either physically invades the home or invades his dream, and then spends that entire night tormenting the kid and only ever stops at sunrise.
Just Freddy Krueger's the shit out of him.
Yeah. You don't mess with the Sluagh because these guys are masters at causing terror.
So does this mean Freddy Krueger was a Sluagh?
Probably.
That's pretty wild.
Because we talked about all the different ways a red talon can scare you. The Sluagh get even more creative than that.
Dude, well, I mean, we just discussed how, but yeah.
I think I've told you before about Gantz.
Yes.
Yeah, the anime series Gantz, and Sean told you about Inuyashiki.
I know Inuyasha, but not Inuyashiki.
Those two anime, that level of human cruelty, you can do with the Sluagh.
Just some fucking
Yeah.
messed up body horror shit.
Like stuff that if we were to play one proper in a tabletop game, we would have to age restrict the video.
Yes.
And the reason I like the Sluagh is because these guys tend to hover around outcasts, where they're not like the Shadow Court. They don't want to turn people into killers. They will instead comfort those that don't have anybody to defend them. where if a kid is incredibly lonely, this is like your evil, quote unquote, fairly odd parent that will come in and will just play with the kid because nobody else wants to play with the kid.
Yeah, it sounds
They
about
they
right.
they have deep sympathy with the lonely.
I'm trying to think of something to compare them to, but I don't think I don't think that's really done that much in fiction. In all honesty.
I'll see like something like Edward Scissorhands in a way.
Yeah, I suppose that it makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm trying to think of stuff like that too.
Although I imagine the Red Talon's very very much like them.
No, they're still human.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah.
Fuck.
We've said their name several times already.
Oh, have we?
Yeah. They tend to have black fur.
Oh, wait, the Black Furies, really?
They lord over stuff.
Oh yeah, the Shadow Lords. Wait, why the fuck the
Yeah.
Shadow Lords?
Because as we discussed in the Shadow Lords
Oh,
episode,
yeah,
the
they're
Shadow
scary
Lords
as
love
shit.
intimidation. They love intimidation tactics. And a Shadow Lord would love to contact Sluagh and say, "Would you like to make a slasher movie, but it's real?"
And the Sluagh would go,
Yes.
And behold, now you have 2-player Dead by Daylight.
that'd be scary as shit.
Just imagine like 2 different killers, like Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger working together. Well, we already have that
Well,
movie,
yeah,
but
Freddy versus Jason. Well, no, they were fighting each other a lot. That movie's pretty fucking
Like-
sick, though.
like if they manage to prevent the communication breakdown.
Yeah, more or less. But then again, Jason doesn't fucking talk.
Yeah. You just have to teach him sign language, and then eventually the two of you can work together.
Just pour water on him.
No. And lastly, we have the trolls.
Yes. If you're ever in a
Very
jam,
Game of
hide
Thrones
behind these guys.
Very similar to the Game of Thrones. And the way that the trolls look, did you ever watch the movie Little Monsters?
I don't think so.
Because they look identical to to the iconic monster of Little Monsters.
Well, now I'm gonna look it up. Little.
Yeah,
Monster.
this is not a good movie, but yeah, pull it up on the screen.
Oh, dude, that looks fucking schlocky as shit, dude.
It is. It's if you liked Beetlejuice, there is something you
Fred
can get out of
Savage
this movie,
and
but
Howie Mandel. What a fucking treat.
very strange combination.
Yep. Hang on. Let me.
Yeah, but yeah, they look like this. They're blue. They have horns.
Yep. Let me open that in a new tab so people can fucking see it. Shit.
Yeah,
Hit. Yeah. Look like that.
this is one of the 4 movies that's weird and freaky for the sake of being weird and freaky.
Yeah, it's fucked.
Yeah,
I
we
wanna
have
look at that.
Beetlejuice, Little Monsters, Cool World, and Monkey Bone.
I haven't heard of Monkey Bone.
You will love Monkey Bone. It's a horrible movie.
Oh,
It's a horrible movie, and
Jesus.
you have a great time. You will have a great time watching it, though.
I'll pitch it to the guys for shitty movie night.
And typically, very easy art you can get for your troll. Pull up a blue tiefling from D&D.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Yeah,
Blue
because
tiefling.
yeah, it's like Google search blue tiefling.
Oh, I didn't know they came in blue. That's kind of fucking sick.
Yeah, and behold, there you can go. There's another troll asset.
There's a billion of them right there on the screen for you.
Yeah, you will have no shortage of getting a troll, even though they have a very specific look. Thanks to D&D, we now have plenty of reference images.
Hell yeah.
And the trolls, very similar to the Gethyrmus in many ways.
I mean, you see, they already have Thor's hammer as their logo.
Yeah, but they take on a more knightly aesthetic. They're not worried about the glory, they're worried about honor. They want to be the lawful good paladin whenever they appear in public. That for a while these were the guys who maintained Kith society for years after the Shattering, and these were also the bodyguards of the Shee before the Shattering. And now they've reassumed the role of being the Shee's number two, where similar to how the Fenris will prop up the Silverfangs, the trolls will prop up the Shee, Seelie and Unseelie. And
The only difference being
imagine
is
if
that the Sea are competent.
yeah, imagine if the Ventru and the Toreador got along all the time.
That'd be fucking lethal, my guy.
Yeah, it's that kind of combination. But this should be a very dangerous combination. But as we said before, the changelings aren't really going to accomplish anything anytime soon. They're very good at killing each other, not so good at killing vampires and werewolves.
I mean, I don't know why they'd need to kill werewolves. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, some of them.
Black spirals.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Guess which tribe they like the most?
Oh, the fucking Get.
Nope, it's not the Get.
What the fuck? Dude, I'm terrible at this game. Shit.
Even though they have a Nordic rune on their icon, it's not the Get Fenris.
It's not the fucking Fianna again, is it?
It is the Fianna.
That's what I fucking thought.
Yep, and no guesses as to how to get these two involved. You need some extra muscle, but you're out of wolves. Call a troll. A troll would be delighted to help you.
Huh, great. I like the Get. They don't go nuts when they can't kill something.
And on top of that, these guys are very physically strong. They will be able to keep up with a werewolf in physical combat. They don't regenerate though,
Well,
so
that works.
use them sparingly.
I got enough
But
noses to spare
the-
from others' touch.
But if they manage to survive the entire Pentex raid, they would be delighted to help you raise the CEO and smash their spine over their knee.
That sounds like fun.
Yep.
We ought to do that.
The trolls are pretty badass.
Yeah, I like them.
I also see them. If you have a female troll, absolutely the Black Furies. If you have a Shadow Lord, well, of course the Shadow Lords because they like anyone who's unseelie. Silverfangs, maybe they would like what Silverfangs are trying to be, but the more they stay around the Silverfangs, the more they will realize that they can't stand the Silverfangs.
Yeah, it's like, wow, these guys are all a bunch of privileged inbred bastards. Why are we here?
And a Glasswalker if they pay them enough money.
Sure.
We will pay this troll to defend our corporate office.
Yeah, see how that goes.
And there are two other groups to very briefly talk about. The Nuninhi, as you mentioned before, the Native American fairies. We won't go much further into detail, but the Uktena.
Oh, yeah.
The Uktena, absolutely.
Not the
Yeah,
Wendigo?
yeah, they have their... the Wendigo don't like them.
Really?
Because the Wendigo don't like fun.
True. Okay, that's true.
They like each other, and that's it. So, you will have the Nuninhi openly work with the Uktena, and a lot of Uktena totems are very similar to Nuninhi. I'm thinking of the Corn Maiden specifically. Guess what she does?
She grows corn.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Bombs away.
Something takes your body, man.
And you will never starve with the Corn Maiden.
Yeah, just like you'll never be sober with grain.
And then you can take the corn and you can brew alcohol with it, so it automatically makes her better than grain.
I don't know. I mean, with corn you're getting high mash whiskey. So
Yeah, until you can take grains beer and de-distill it and return it to wheat or rice, and then
Yeah,
I
you
can
can't
eat
do
that.
that.
No.
You can, however, stew beef in Guinness, and it's awesome.
Yeah, but you can use that in a broth though.
Yes.
And lastly, we have the inanime. As we mentioned before, the people who are made out of mud, rocks, trees, and sometimes water. This is the group that the Red Talons would like.
Because they are Mother Gaia.
After all, we said the Red Talons would not get along with any of these guys because they're still human. And the trolls would be pushing it. They might hesitate with a troll, but then very, very quickly realize that that's human and then kill it. But And same thing with the Puka too, because the Puka aren't animal enough. They start off as human. But the anime were never human to begin with. So you could have a Red Talon get along with them. And the Red Talons would be delighted because they used to have tree friends back in the day. And Griffin, their totem,
Also likes them?
that is a creature that also exists within the dreaming.
Griffin?
Yeah, griffins.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. But at the same time, that's probably incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I think he's also like the icon animal for the Shee House Gwydion. Granted, Griffin with a capital G doesn't really like anything human anymore, and that's why he's turned his back on changing society and only ever focuses on his wolves. But the Shee would probably sympathize with the Red Talons, but the Red Talons won't work with them. But the inanime, on the other hand, sure. If you have an anime who manages to have context with House Gwydion, then you can get a relationship between the Seelie Court and the Red Talon started.
Yeah, but that'd be a strained relationship given how much they align with humanity.
Yeah. And they also have fun with the guy too, because the Red Talons are just playing in the woods. All of a sudden, like a tree man just walks into the middle of their field. And the Red Talons have to check what year it is because they thought all of them were dead. But no, you have a tree man, and we can be friends with the tree man.
Yes, and then everybody lives happily ever after, such is the dreaming.
Until the meteor smashes into the moon and causes the events of Ragnarok.
Yeah,
And
well,
we will talk
we had
about
fun
that
until then.
we will talk about that in our apocalypse episode.
There's probably a lot of
But-
those.
And that's a few ideas you can have with your changelings and your wolves. Do you have any ideas of your own?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, the fucking Puka with the Silent Striders would be that fun buddy cop idea. I mean, obviously, like we said, the the Redcaps will get along with basically anybody. We were discussing earlier. We said that the fucking Sluagh and the Shadow Lords, given how much they love scaring people, especially like a Shadow Lord Galliard, who's basically a death metal singer. You could basically have Marilyn Manson, but changeling werewolf game. That'd be tight as hell.
Yes.
Give me a bit of a beat back.
Given how both tribes, both the tribe and the Kith, get a lot of information from a lot of inspiration from the Night Lords from 40K.
Oh yeah.
You could definitely see the two of them working together, and they both start quoting Heath Ledger's Joker.
It's a meme, Batman.
I'm now thinking of a Sluagh and Shadow Lord both wearing Joker paint.
Oh, that'd be fucking horrifying.
Just like imagining a wolf like painting his face white and having the stars around his eyes and lips.
I couldn't see a Shadow Lord doing that, in all honesty. Like, not even a Galliard or a Ragabash.
Unless you're going like for the monster clown look. They're trying to scare you.
Oh yeah, the killer clowns from outer space. Or what's the name of the fat clown from Spawn?
Violator.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. It's the most disgusting character I've ever seen any comic book artist make.
He is pretty gross. Like, I remember watching the Spawn movie and like him like scooping fucking bugs on like salsa on a chip and eating it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fucking fucked up.
He's even worse than the animated movie.
Is he?
Yeah, this is a character that was made for the 90s.
As James Rolfe once said in AVGN, the 90s was the barf age.
Yep. Which nobody actually liked, but everybody just copied Ren and Stimpy without thinking about it.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. You
And,
got some good shit out of
Black
it.
Spirals. Black Spirals.
What about them?
No.
Yeah.
They would not be able to cooperate with anyone, because even if they had an alliance going with the Shadow Court, that I swear that would eventually put off the Black Spiral, because the Black Spirals, some of them want to live in a world post-apocalypse with a free worm, And those who want to have the worm free and live in a world where just everything's dead forever, like or like undead forever, they would not be able to get along with the Shadow Court at all.
Well, the Shadow Court don't believe in anything except killing everything they look at because they gave up on everybody.
But the more psychopathic members of the Black Spirals, yeah, but it's the same as having the forces of Khorne work together. They're eventually going to kill each other.
For corn!
There's a reason why Khorne will never win the events of 40K.
No, but they're at least fun to play as, I imagine, because you get to just yell at the rest of the table.
They're fun. They're fun to play as, not fun to fight. Yeah.
Blood for the blood god!
Yeah, so you're going to fight me in the same way every game we play. Oh, whoop-de-doo, I'm so looking forward to this next hour of gameplay.
Yeah, this is why I've been avoiding 40K.
Yes. And if I were to think about one more thing to say, in Times of Judgment, the Times of Judgment book that describes all the apocalypse scenarios that didn't warrant their own books, there is one scenario with the changelings that very closely mirrors Weaver Ascending in Apocalypse, to the point where I could see the two mixing if you want to do the Apocalypse scenario, where in that scenario, to very quickly explain it, the Weaver takes over, and the only way to combat the Weaver is to cause so much chaos that it reawakens the worm, and you end up weaponizing the Geru end up weaponizing the Triadic worm against the Weaver, creating this massive war on Earth, where a lot of people are going to die. Like 90% of the planet dies, but eventually the Weaver gets pushed away. But
then the worm's loose. What the fuck are we gonna do about that?
Well, the goal is to have them kill each other.
Yeah, that's true.
And hope it works.
Hope being the operative word.
That's all you have in that scenario.
Well, that's all you have in the world of darkness.
I can definitely see, with Weaver Ascending, a bunch of wolves are causing chaos, and then they look over, and then a guy with blue skin and horns, and a guy with a massive maw filled with needle teeth are also fighting, and they'll look over and say, wait a minute, you're not human, you're not Fomori, what are you? We're changelings. We're here to help you, and then they start cooperating.
Oh, well, bet. Grab a weapon, start killing things.
And I'm just now realizing that I never explained what the Fey Mian is supposed to be.
Well, we can do that now. We got time.
You have your Seeming, which is your human disguise, and then your Mian, which is your Fey appearance, where you have all your Fey trappings, like the face paint with the knockers, the teeth with the red caps.
Yep.
That's what that is. And you have to flip-flop back and forth between the two forms to avoid falling into Banality and Bedlam, respectively.
Yep.
And that's all that it is.
So yeah, Changeling. It's fun.
We finally made a short episode, comparatively.
Comparatively, very comparatively. Yeah. Given our runtime right now, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
Yeah, we like the long form content.
Well, yeah. If you want to I know YouTube's been doing a whole lot of shit where it'll like pause your video if you don't have a playlist of something. But like, if go to fucking bed listening to us, I don't care. We're probably a little too loud for that, but turn your volume down. I don't know.
Yeah, or just is you're eating your dinner.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I do that a lot when I'm watching YouTube videos. I have like a bunch of playlists that I'll put on and turn down real low just for like some background noise as I'm going to bed.
Yeah, the artist I'm paying to draw Grim, he does that with our episodes.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, for watching or for listening. Yeah. I'm glad you like the content.
Yeah. And I think I've run out of things to say about this topic.
Yeah, so play Changeling. It's fun. It's actually uplifting. Like if you want to help some people and make life suck a little bit less in the world of darkness, then play Changeling the Dreaming.
And combine your Changeling antics with your werewolf tactics and your werewolf tactics with your Changeling tactics.
That makes your mashed potatoes
and your mashed potatoes and your gravy. You mix the two together.
Yes, and it makes a delicious meal.
And eventually, when we start running out of things to say with Werewolf, we are going to start doing more Changeling videos.
Well, we got all kinds of shit we can do in the World of Darkness. We got Changeling, we got
Exactly.
Vampire, we got Mage, we got Demon, we got Wraith. We're gonna be here forever. God damn it.
We're not limiting ourselves to one and only Splat.
And while we are still the Galliard's Guide to Werewolf, we may eventually become some other fucking thing. Well, we'll still be the Galliard group. I don't think that's gonna change.
Yeah, exactly. The channel name is sticking.
Yup. We are the Galliard group.
And-
We talk about the World of Darkness.
And next episode is the Children of Gaia.
Yes, those fucking hippies.
And that's going to be a pain in the ass doing research on them.
Yes, it is. Why? Because they can never keep their
'Cause-
goddamn story straight.
Because they refuse to give you a straight answer.
Yeah. So we go from one of the most direct and blunt tribes that don't give a shit about anything, especially history, because our history is fuck humans, and then we get the most, lovey-dovey werewolves there are.
Just kill people. That's our history.
Yeah. They want to kill. I unironically listened to it the other day, just all the way through, and I'm ashamed of myself that I have.
You're gonna keep listening to Alice's Restaurant until you can recite all 18 minutes of the story.
Like I don't know why, it comes around like a fever. Every other month or so, I'll just be laying in bed and I'll wake up one morning and then I'll just hear Arlo Guthrie's voice in the back of my head. You can have
this song
anything
is
you
called
want.
Alice's Restaurant because Alice is her restaurant. It wasn't the name of the restaurant, but that's why I'm calling the song Alice's Restaurant.
Okay, we're gonna cut off the episode now.
Yeah, that's it. We'll end you on Alice's Restaurant.
Good night, everybody.
Yes, go listen to Alice's Restaurant.
Go listen to Alice's Restaurant.